When I said yes to Melissa's request about inviting her friends over to my place, I never would have foreseen that I'd be stuck with them for months. But just my luck. That was exactly what happened when the lockdown hit. Hi there, I'm Jack, and I'm about to tell you the story of the time my girlfriend turned my house into a motel for her friends during quarantine. But before anything else, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell icon to show your support for me. A couple of days before lockdown hit us, I was hanging out with Melissa at my apartment. She was busy tapping on her phone when I asked her, "Hey, what are you up to?" She briefly looked up from her screen and answered, "Playing." "Oh, babe," Melissa said as she put her phone down and leaned her head on my chest. "What is it?" I asked. She pulled away and batted her eyelashes at me. I knew she wanted something. That's usually how she behaved whenever she did. She'd be all touchy, her voice would come out a bit childish, and she'd bat her eyelashes. It was as if she expected me to fall for it, every time. You know how, some people have, housewarming parties?" she asked. "Uh-huh," I replied. I already knew where she was going, and I was gonna do my best to not give in to her wiles. Melissa put on her sweetest smile and began to say, "Well, I was thinking, since you just basically moved in, and it's my birthday the day after tomorrow." She pouted her lips and pointed her pleading eyes up at me. I put a finger up to her lips and said, "You don't even have to ask, sweetheart. Of course you can have a party here." Dang it! I fell for it again. "You're the best!" Melissa exclaimed. "You can have a housewarming party, and I can have a birthday party with my friends. I'll invite my friends over, and you invite yours, and it'll be amazing." "Hurrah!" I said, with zero enthusiasm. I knew she just wanted to throw a party and show off her boyfriend's shiny apartment to her friends. Melissa was like that. She loved showing off, even when what she was proud of was not for her to show off. She knew all my friends weren't even in the same state, so she really was just interested in going to flex on her friends. The housewarming thing was just her way of making me feel like the party was for both of us. She knew I could care less, and she took advantage of that, like she always did. The problem is that I do honestly care for Melissa. You can call me a simp all you want, but when you truly care for someone, you tend to want to keep them happy. And parties and showing off made Melissa happy. The next day was chaos. I had to run around town getting everything Melissa wanted to have for her birthday. At first, she helped me. She went to the stores with me and picked out stuff she needed to get. But then, she just gave up and said she was calling an Uber home because she was feeling lightheaded. That's Melissa's code for, "I thought I wanted to do this, but the lines are long and I don't like walking." So I had to spend the rest of the day finishing up her lists of things to shop for, going from store to store as people fought over toilet paper and collecting food, drinks, and decor. It wouldn't surprise you to know that I also ended up being the one to put up said decorations and make the preparations for her planned birthday blowout. I even rented a bubble machine. So the day finally came, and her friends were having a great time. Melissa gave them a tour of my loft and acted the perfect hostess. I wasn't a fan of rowdy people, but I gritted my teeth and smiled for people I've never met. When Melissa blew her cake's candles out, she turned to me and said, "Where's my birthday present?" I slowly turned my head towards her. "What?" I said in disbelief. "My birthday present. You still haven't given me it," she snapped. Okay, that really pissed me off. First of all, I was already throwing her this elaborate party. Secondly, I busted my butt off working on it and shopping for everything myself. And third, I was letting her throw her ridiculous party in my apartment. An apartment that I had just gotten for myself and hadn't even gotten to enjoy its amenities. Being that I literally just moved in. My boxes weren't even completely unpacked yet. So it really ticked me off when she had the gall to demand a present when her friends were already busy staining my carpet and taking advantage of the gaming room that I hadn't even been able to touch. I wanted to wait for a relaxed weekend when I could breathe and enjoy my new place. And now, it was a circus. I gritted my teeth as hard as I could and forced a smile on my face. What are you talking about, babe? This is your gift. Her voice was so loud that everybody could hear it over the obnoxiously loud EDM track that our DJ friend was blasting off on my speakers. Oh, no. You forgot, didn't you? I can't believe you forgot to get me a present. You had all the time in the world yesterday. She pouted. Through my smile, I said as quietly as I could, do you really want to do this right now? In front of everyone? Melissa crossed her arms over her chest and pouted even more. Okay, I exhaled. Here's the thing, Mel. I drove all around town for you and that chaos out there to buy $1,000 worth of party stuff. I got all this food, all these refreshments, all these themed decorations, and I'm hosting your party in my apartment. I even baked you a cake. Mel, what other gifts were you expecting? Mel's eyes were full of fury. She didn't like being denied anything, much less in front of people she was trying to show off to. Just admit it. You forgot to get me something. A bracelet would have been nice. So, everything I did for you is worth nothing without a bracelet? I asked her. And so that everyone around us could hear, she answered, no. That royally pissed me off. I was already annoyed to begin with. Her friends were trashing my new place and had no respect for my stuff. They acted like they were rock stars in a hotel room. And to add to that, my girlfriend didn't even appreciate everything I was doing for her. I just wanted to have a quiet evening in and watch the news so I could find out what was happening out there as the pandemic began its rampage. But I couldn't even have access to my own TV. To be completely honest, my patience was already thin at that point. And so, maybe I was short with my girlfriend. I could have handled the situation with more patience, but at the time I was pissed. And so, I took a length of beads that were hanging off of one of the lamps and tied it to Melissa's wrist, and said smugly, there, a lovely bracelet for your birthday. Happy now? Mel began to cry, and she walked off. The EDM track finally stopped, and there was a hush in the room. Melissa's best friend, Walt, took a long, drawn-out sip of his iced tea through a straw as he looked at me and said, awkward, before he went after my girlfriend. But before I could go and apologize to her, somebody in the crowd finally put on the news and turned the volume up. That was when we all found out we were on lockdown. I was so caught up in preparing for the day's festivities that I hadn't even known what was going on outside. We'd been on lockdown for hours, and we had no idea. Melissa came back. She'd heard the news as well. She was sniffling when she asked me, Did you hear that? That's crazy, right? But, wait, does that mean we have to stay here? I didn't even think about it. If we were on such a strict lockdown, that meant Melissa's stuck in my apartment. And so were her friends. The problem was that my house was so close to the state border that most of them lived across state lines. And with travel being restricted, it meant they had to stay put. I know what you can gift me for my birthday, Mel suddenly chimed. You can let my friends stay here until the lockdown's over. That was when I died inside. I was willing to put up with her spoiled, bratty friends for a night, but who knew how long the lockdown could be? I was feeling guilty for making her sad, and I didn't want anyone to be in trouble, even if they were animals. So I eventually agreed. I should have been more ruthless. Because days turned into weeks, and then into months, and the lockdown didn't lift. Mel's friends were crammed 4 to a room. They even managed to weasel my room out of me. Mel said it was just basic hospitality. I was a bit miffed that someone else was enjoying my 2,000 thread count sheets. The house slowly began to resemble an episode of Hoarders. Dishes began to pile up. There were magazines strewn all over the floor. Used clothes clung onto every imaginable surface of the apartment. And trash was everywhere. It was as if her friends were never taught to clean up after themselves. And so, one day, as I was doing my 3rd batch of dishes, I just flipped out. I was done. I threw them out of my house and told them to find somewhere else to stay. I didn't care where. And when Melissa threw a tantrum and offended her friends by saying they were used to having maids, I threw her out with them. I was not about to live through a pandemic catering to irresponsible children. Especially not needy, messy, ungrateful, disgusting ones. I didn't hear from them again. And frankly, I couldn't care less. I was too busy enjoying the quiet, peaceful views from my new apartment.